Hello and welcome to Wrestle Opinionated, episode 3. This is our podcast all about the amazing shows of AEW. I am your host, Morg. This is your other host,
Strange.
And we are here to talk about all the shows from AEW reviews, give our thoughts on things that are happening in and around the world of AEW. But before we do all that, how's your week been, Mr. Strange?
Quite good. Things have been going well. I think wrestling has been pretty solid. I watched a different show last night. The week has been going well. How about you?
Not too bad in the slightest. Got a long weekend off work, so I can actually enjoy the lockdown.
For the first time. Goddamn essential workers taking the risks for us. We appreciate it, man.
I don't think... my argument is, I'm not one of those truly essential workers. I just can't work from home.
Yeah, well, if you have to venture out into the what I assume to be an apocalyptic wasteland out there, you have my respect. I'm like all other nerds, hiding inside with my experience from Resident Evil games, pretending I'm going to be a badass if it gets worse.
Every day is like Sunday at the moment.
So weird. Ups and downs, I suppose.
Yes.
Easier workload, chance of dying.
Yeah, so it's a 50-50. So before we get truly started, last night we both watched WrestleMania Part 1. On the whole, I enjoyed it.
I had an alright time as a man watching from the outside who doesn't really know what the characters are up to and what they're doing. I don't know the feuds, I don't know who's who. I learned I like the man who looks like Macho Man and has a guitar. Elias?
Yeah.
And then we had possibly one of the greatest matches in wrestling I've seen in years. It was beautiful.
Yeah, because of that, we've decided that at some point this week there will be the Wrestle Opinionated WrestleMania review.
It's only fair. You, as the man who knows the WWE, knows the characters and such like, and me, the person who just went, this Undertaker match is the fucking shit. Apparently, a lot of classic wrestling fans disagree with me, but a lot of others should have watched Lucha Underground years ago.
Yes, definitely. Before we kick off anything else, we need to recap our tier system in case we have any new listeners. So, Mr. Strange, we give our reviews a tiered score, and you will now explain that tiered score to any new listeners. Old listeners, you'll just have to put up with listening to it again.
I'm down with this. So, the tier system, quite well known due to YouTube lists and, of course, Japanese gaming, where it comes from. What a lot of people don't know is this actually comes from the Japanese school system. So today we're going to go with that. Obviously, it works up through grades. We've got D, you're dumb, you're below the mark. You've still got a pass, but your parents aren't celebrating this. Could achieve more. C, competent, ticked all the boxes, must try harder. Your parents are going to look at that report and be like, oh, it's all right, but you could work harder. B, baller, I had a good time. Just a little bit of polishing, a little bit of story, a little bit of character work, and that beauty could be an A. A, awesome, I didn't look away. You've got it, you've aced it, your parents are happy, you're going to that college. Beautiful match. And S, which actually stands for Sugoi, or special, or superior. That's where it actually comes from in the Japanese grading system. You are above an A. Over here it would be an A star, but over there, special word, exciting, Sugoi. Japan will be pleased. And there we are. That's how I rank matches, and what we'll be going through with the rest of this series until I come with a more ludicrous one to use.
Yeah, I think we just keep that on. So I think that's all of our beginning. Now we're going to lead into our news, and I believe, Mr. Strange, you have some very new news for us.
Oh, yes, very new, very good, very inspiring for the Times news. Kip Sapien and Penelope Ford were engaged last night. Kip proposed in front of a lake, if I recall, watching the video, whilst her parents thought they were just taking a photo of them. And out he popped. It was beautiful, really nice, actually. Bit of good news in these plague times. Rolling through into actual wrestling news, we of course have the TNT Championship coming. The television belt, the thing people have been shouting out for that I wished was a trios belt.
You and me both.
But as you pointed out, maybe they don't quite have enough trios team yet, unless you do the anyone can be a singles, a tag, or a trios team. But I think we'll come back to that one to discuss the actual specifics a little bit later. And then you had some news that I was unaware of, which made my day.
So, AEW have had to find a new place to do recording. Quick note on this: I believe they now have a good few episodes in the can, so they've done a load of pre-record. But the location of where they were recording got leaked, and apparently the police turned up. TNA had all their paperwork, was all in order, and there wasn't any problems with it. So they were allowed to carry on. I believe maybe a policeman or two stayed behind to just make sure they didn't breach any of the current rules and regulations. And then the internet rumors hit that Vince McMahon had sent the police to shut down to shut down AEW.
It was me, Tony. It was me all along.
Personally, I think that the information of where they were got leaked, and the police went, we probably ought to check that out.
Yeah, it's a wrestling show. We'd best go check it's not having seen interviews with wrestlers who've had to go to hospital and such like, the large majority of the public aren't that aware about wrestling. I mean, I know it's great and we love it, and it should be on mainstream TV, showing like a soap opera, that it is. But the majority of people just don't know. So the police are just going to go, wrestling show. Probably lots of people there. Stop the Rona. Woo, woo, woo. So, yeah, you can't really fault them, can you?
No, and AEW were all set up and okay, so not really an issue in the slightest.
As much as I do think Madman Vince would take a few shots if he could to take down the AEW, as he has successfully done with several other companies in the past, I don't think he's quite at calling the Corona police on them yet.
Yeah, and I think this weekend of all weekends, he probably had a lot more on his plate.
Yeah, thinking about a few other things, like making the greatest show the match the WWE has had in decades. Come back for our special on WrestleMania, where I'll go on about that match even more.
And possibly another match. I've got high hopes for one from tonight.
This Funhouse match. If they're willing to go Undertaker teleporting and using flames to fight AJ Styles in a graveyard, I'd best get full evil manic LSD horror clown beating up Captain America. I'm down for this. I'm ready.
In the set of a children's television program.
Yes, exactly. It could be. We can get that little vulture puppet that's in it. I don't know any of their names. They get all of the different references for Vince McMahon in puppet form can get involved and beat up Cena. I'm ready. If he's going to go full lucha, I will give Vince my money.
Yeah, that's this has been, that Undertaker match was incredible, but we shall gush about that later.
Yeah. This is an AEW show.
Yes.
As exciting as that was.
Yeah. But though I think it's difficult when it's WrestleMania weekend, even in these strange WrestleMania times, to not have a little. It's the biggest
wrestling show in history, realistically. It's the one. You've got to give it its credit.
I'd like to point out quickly that Kip proposed to Penelope on the night of WrestleMania.
Oh, lad. It's a Chad move right there.
So I think that's all of our news. Yeah, that's all of our news.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're up to date. Awesome. So we're on to Twitter. Who should you follow on Twitter? Which wrestlers are best on Twitter? We've covered Evil Uno, the meta fourth wall breaking troll. We've covered my personal hero, Chucky T, with his nihilism. Today we're going to go on to a man who never breaks kayfabe. MJF on Twitter. It doesn't matter if you're an old school wrestling fan with, wrestlers are mean and tough and don't break character, or a new comedy shitlord AEW fan. MJF is worth a watch. Never breaks character. Bullying kids. Bullying adults. Sticking the finger up at people who come for signings. MJF does it all, and he's unapologetic. One guy's kid went to MJF for an autograph, and I think MJF gave him the finger and told him to piss off or something. And the parent then put it on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. Look, this wrestler was mean to my son. If you go to an AEW show, you know what MJF is going to do to your kids. So MJF just fucking rolled with it. He was like, yep, put up some other videos of him making kids cry and stuff. He's just wonderful. He's so good at being in kayfabe. Do you remember when he worked all of the like D&D nerds from our LARP circle? Did you see any of the posts of his post of I don't play D&D?
Yes.
And people would genuinely share like, oh, this guy doesn't play D&D, blah blah blah. Oh, look at this Chad mocking nerds, and it's like, yes, that's his character. He's fighting a man who does do D&D all the time. It's our first culture crossover in our. Amongst wrestling and nerd stuff, realistically, that's actually been shown to mislead the others. Like, we know about Brandon, we know he plays D&D, we know a selection of the other things, but most of our expanded collective social circle don't know about wrestling. So seeing them like, who's this dickhead? Why does he think he's better than D&D? It's perfect. MJF has achieved, true. He has really led the marks, I believe is the technical term. I'm unsure.
The guy's a genius. I have an issue with that match, that I do think that AEW did possibly blow a whole bunch of new fans after that Twitter, but he's just so good on Twitter, and he's so good at keeping character. I can understand why he's a man to follow.
You get to see loads of other things from him as well. Like somebody shared a video of him in his a cappella band in college or high school, the Acafellas, where he was the leader. And they shared it to laugh at him. He was like, "Listen to my voice, I'm fucking amazing." There's no back down. They put up his Tough Enough video. Doesn't matter. He rides with it. He is a cheap heat king. He will ride on anything. He is an 80s hero heel, whacked into modern day. He even does good stuff. Like, I've seen him share loads of minor MLW matches. Yeah, that's the indie promotion he was in before AEW. He shared a big one about Statlander when she left there to go to AEW properly. And if you've watched any of the High Spots videos and stuff with him in, when he actually breaks character, which is a super rare occurrence, you can see he's actually just quite like a cool, nice, nervous Jewish kid. But as he puts it. But then when he just transforms into this mega heat heel 80s douche, and he's forever doing it on Twitter. It's just a wonderful show of him winding up people, then not backing down. I love him.
I think we've also got to give. So MJF is our Twitter to follow, but we have to give a special shout out
to the hero of Twitter from last week.
Yes, Mr. Evil Uno, for his tweet last night after a certain awesome match. I'm just quickly after a certain awesome match that we watched, which was pretty much just very, very simple. That's not us. Brilliant. And it certainly made us pop last night.
Yeah, it's really good. And when you've got a lot of the indie names that are now growing in AEW, the AEW names that come from these little leagues, lots of them know the talent from WWE and are getting a push. So it's like last night in the match I was watching with Sammy and Drew Gulak versus Daniel Bryan and some others, and I was like, "This is just
Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura."
Yeah, and I was like, "This is just an indie match. I've seen this match in PWG matches and stuff in the past." I got really excited. So seeing those friendships cross over is actually really nice, as opposed to the old, huge divide. It's like if you go to Trent Beretta's Twitter page, you'll see Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, constantly calling him a piece of shit because his shoe designs are the same as Dolph's. Just banter between these people, making wrestling actually a community again, as opposed to just enemies. I love it. And I think that's Twitter done.
Yeah, which means we are on to our review of the week.
Beginning with Being the Elite.
Yeah.
Which I was unable to rewatch before this, and I remember precisely two things from it. One was Colt's face bouncing around a screen, and the other one was Antisocial Hangman, which I thought we were building away from, but we've gone back into.
Yeah, they didn't pay off the cliffhanger from last week, unless they paid it off somewhere else that I haven't spotted.
Yeah. We don't know. Like, they've had some stories which we've missed from longer being the elite things. They've had some stories that have gone in directions we've not been able to predict, good or bad. So give it a bit of leniency, but it wasn't like the hilarity of some of the recent BTEs we've had or needed in our quarantine times.
It was an okay being the elite. It's not one I'm going to say is a must watch, other than go and find the Kenny part. The Kenny and Colt part, I think, is just going to be a standard every week. Go and find the Colt Cabana part of being the elite, even if you don't watch the whole show.
Colt is a wonder and a boon to the wrestling industry, and I'm glad he's finally got a big contract.
Yeah, it's also kind of thanks to him that we get to do this.
Yeah, it's true. He is the man who began the indie wrestling podcast. Just fucking do everything. Push. He's great. I love him. I've subscribed to all of his channels, and I'm glad he's in the perfect situation for him. Basically, big budget indie wrestling.
So then we move on to Dark. I didn't find Dark very good. It was very short and was mainly squash matches.
Yeah, it was kind of just
I did find out what Jake Hager's finisher is called. It's called the arm triangle.
This silence is my disappointment. I should probably say that. We're not meant to have dead air in a podcast, but I was literally just staring at my notes like I want to die on the inside. A lot of shapes in the AEW. A lot of shapes. The arm triangle.
Death triangle.
Death triangle. Yeah, surely death triangle is more powerful than arm triangle in the inner circle. It's a lot of shapes.
I'd say probably the best.
I did make a note.
Go on.
I made a note that Tony's trying to embrace Cody. Now he's got no vampire brides with him. It's the only one he's got left. They've all had to flee, and so now we've got Tony and Cody, because Tony's got 4 million vampire brides because he has no shadow. Sorry,
so Cody's going to be getting paler every week.
Yeah, exactly, until he loses his shadow, and then Lance stakes him or something. We'll come to that later. Yeah, it was all right. I've complimented Sammy's ring persona in his match, as he's always in character. He's always douching about. I always feel Sammy is Sammy and not just a selection of moves.
Yes, I thought the best match was probably Darby's, and I know that I'm a bit of a Darby fan, but it was probably the most back and forth of all the matches.
It's the only one that says, yeah, good next to it on my notes. Sammy's persona likes me, but I gave it a C. I love Spears. My shameful delight of Spears with his... he just always looks so happy to be wrestling. Every time. And I'm pretty sure he was wrestling one of his students, because they actually had some quite good back and forth. I gave that a C. Van Snellen was actually written as good. Fabu, I can't even remember who Fabu is, but my notes say I hate him versus Mox, and I gave that a D. Then Hager, Dubsy Dub, oh boy, a choke, which I now know is his finisher, the arm triangle. Seeing as Dark used to be the one I weirdly at the start looked more forward to watching. Like, I thought earlier Darks were fucking phenomenal, and we've had some really solid Darks. This was not great.
What's your overall grade for it? Are we?
I'm giving it a D.
Yeah, I thought are we getting our first D.
We had no fucking inspiration for it, It was. I appreciate they're working with talent they don't have, and a variety of different things. But did we really just need a bunch of squash matches and mediocrity? Like last week we had Colt versus. It was Colt versus someone, and he played to a crowd that wasn't there, then looked confused. He fully got into the showmanship of it, and I had a good time. I didn't really have a good time through any of this. I was like, it's nice. Can't wait for the real show.
Yeah, it was very much like that. So we move on to Dynamite.
Yes.
Opens with Tony Schiavone and his new vampire bride, Cody, with Pharaoh. And then opens with Trent with Chuck and Orange Cassidy versus Omega. I want to give special shout out here to Billy Gunn and Son for making lots of noise and helping to add to the match. Kenny then wins with the one-winged angel, and my notes say good luck with following that. What did you think of the match, and what was your grade?
Wonderful. I had a fantastic time. When they walked down to the ring, I looked at Ruth and I went, this is going to be a Japan match. And she looked at me, not quite knowing what that means. And I was like, yeah. Started, I was like, started off well, good. I did at one point, I was like, it's seeming a little bit one-sided against Trent. That was only a few minutes in, because obviously I wasn't expecting a 29-minute match. And then it came back, and it was back and forth. It was beautiful. I'm in love with Trent's Tornado DDT. It's one of my absolute favourite moves in wrestling, and he does it brilliantly. It was wicked. Just having a crowd of 10 people adds so much more life to things. I gave it an A. That was exactly what we needed. That's what we needed to start a show. That's the kind of match we need to bring us back in these difficult, miserable times. It was strong. We had everything. We had inside, outside, into post, through barriers. It was a proper wrestling show. We had a time limit, on that cusp moment. I assumed it was just going to be a Kenny goes in, smashes and wins because he's a much higher tier character on their roster. But no, it was brilliant. They fully Japan that. I had a great time. Wicked.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that match. I expected you to give it an A. I thought that match was phenomenal. I liked the fact Omega spent most of the time selling for Trent, so he made Trent look like an absolute badass again.
It's weird because a load of them didn't like Trent back in the day, apparently. He wasn't on their bring to AEW list because they thought he was a bit of an asshole. But it looks like the best friends have slid in properly. Probably because Chuck is the friendly side of their relationship. Not saying that they're a couple, but they're that level of friendship.
Yeah, and having Orange as well. They're a money team.
Yeah. A little side note, it's actually quite clever if you look at the people they chose to bring, because Chuck, Trent, and Orange all live together near the location. Jimmy Havoc, Kip, and Penelope all live together. I assume Billy and his son are together, so they've actually minimized the quarantine damage by essentially inviting households, and that's actually quite cleverly done when you think about it. But especially lots of people.
They were all social distancing as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of people afterwards complaining on Reddit and stuff like, why did they invite all these people with Corona? And I'm like, oh, they all live together. That's why. Clever. Yay. So a little shout out for that good deed by, clever deed by the AEWs.
And then we had a Matt Hardy and Jericho video recap. Not going to really touch on that. A Hikaru Shida video package. And then Hikaru Shida versus Anna Jay. Shida wins. But again, Shida has a good match with someone who's either a new or not officially signed to AEW. This is the second one I can think of.
Anna Jay, Magician Woman. I love the look. Anna Jay,
Magician Woman, yes.
Yeah, I was like, she's an evil magician. Then she started doing heel shit. I was like, she is a heel magician. Apparently she's trained by QT and all that, which would explain why she's actually good. Everybody QT and that lot seem to train seems really good, and it means she's probably actually worked with Shida quite recently. So that's probably why they're going to go well. A couple of her punches looked a bit weak, and a couple of her pins weren't actually held. I noticed that. I was like, but both of Shida's shoulders are touching the floor, and your hands are not actually on her. She's just sort of laid there. Wasn't she just rolled? And the hilarious foof grabs of Shida at the end of the final pin made me laugh. I think it's because Shida's probably normally the taller lass in her matches, so, grabbing that legs, it's normally a bit closer. I was unsure. I went, is this what a C women's match should be? Or is this actually a B? I was going to rely on you with your more... you've witnessed better women's leagues than I have in recent times. So where did you put it?
I put it C to B, edging on a B. I thought Shida had a really good match. The second time for me that she's had a match with, a new wrestler where she's just been really good. The other one was, I can't remember her name, much to my disgust, was the scary, horror show character from
Oh,
a
the
couple of
terrifying.
weeks ago. That was a really good match. A lot because of Shida's actually selling before she got into the ring, facial selling. Yeah, Shida's gone up in my estimations, and I'm quite happy with her being the number 1 contender again now.
Yeah, all
in
she
my
needs to do is
views.
polish out a couple of her strikes for me. Like, her power moves and stuff look great.
Yeah.
She sells great. Just a few of her strikes just look shit. And I'm like, we've seen it from others that they can do it. Maybe they just need to bring back Jamie Hayter or one of the other more Japanese girls so that they can have a proper showcase match. Somebody she knows how to wrestle a bit more comfortably. But this week was wicked, and I'm happy to see more of Magician Lass. I'm going to set it as what I see should be, though.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
That's what we should. We should be watching all of our women's matches like we should be watching the average men's match. We should be excited and going, "This is cool," and that was cool.
Then we have a Mox Hager video promo. I've just put that Hager should not talk.
No, especially not when he's looking at his script.
Yeah.
Just off to the left.
It was a good promo. It was very standard Mox and Hager stuff. But it's set up this match for a couple of weeks. It's made the title match seem important, which is always, to me, something that's important. You should always want that belt.
I think we're learning quite quickly that I'm very much an upper mid-card fanboy. That's where I like my wrestling. It was fine. I kind of have to judge these things objectively now. I don't really care about Hager. He's had a couple of good matches and he's getting better. I'm not hugely driven by Moxley, but I don't need an American rebel character. I've got my own issues with authority, and he doesn't represent them in the way I'd like. But he's a very good American James Dean, Stone Cold. Yeah, this is the people's belt. I'm doing it for the people. See, it was great. It's just not for me.
I think it was. I think for Mox, I preferred him when he was proper straddling the tweener line before he won the belt, or before he came up against Jericho when he went full babyface, when he was just the badass who was going to fight anyone. I still love Mox, but he's lost a little bit of it for me as someone who will say I'm a Mox fan.
Roaming asshole is better than people. There's only so many times you can say this belt was for the people and I will defend it for the people. And it's quite obvious he's got to beat Hager. This has to be his first big title defense. So I'm just like, meh. A little bit predictable, I'm just not driven by the characters. Anybody who is, fair play. Enjoy him away. Just doesn't sell with me.
So then Shivani gets rid of his one new vampire bride and brings out his other new vampire bride. And we have Colt Cabana on commentary, which is always going to be a bit of fun.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Lance Archer debut match versus Marco Stunt. Poor Marco.
We had the Jake intro first.
Yes. Then I've got the Jake Roberts promo. Comes out. Jake cuts a promo. What did you think of the Jake Roberts promo?
It was good. Like I criticised last week that he's going a bit off on a tangent, and it didn't really, fit. It was making excuses to tell the story, but this time he just followed straight on. I have written down a bit of old school sexism there from Jake. I think he called Cody a girl or something like that.
It was talking about Brandy wears the pants in that house.
That was the one. It's a bit, he's a 64-year-old man. So it didn't blow my mind as the patriarchy, but could have left that bit out. I gave it a B, solid. Jake knows what he's doing. He can make things sound sinister and menacing. He's very eloquent. I love him. Could have been an A. Leave out the sexism.
I think you're safe with that kind of thing, as long as it's called out as being a sexist thing, so you're a heel. But when it's not,
Cody might actually shout about that.
Yeah, if had Shivani or Cody or somebody made comment about it and they'd called him out on it for being a heel thing, then I think it was.
Well, we might get that from Cody next week. Cody's very good at doing his speech. King of the baby faces, Cody may very well do a speech next week at the start of the episode or some such, having a go about it. But so it could level up as this storyline goes. But currently it was a B. Good Jake in, good Snake in, just not quite perfect.
So Lance Archer comes down, takes out a member of the crew. The Raptor
Yes.
agrees with you that Lance Archer has nice lips.
They're beautiful, aren't they?
And
So
then,
soft.
then Lance Archer wins with the blackout, throws Marco to the baby faces in the crowd. I think that was you can take him home. What did you think of the match on the whole, and what grade did you give it?
All right, I was super dubious at the start because I was like, okay, so we've got our mega heel and they've given him Marco. And I complained about Brody just squashing a, nothing of consequence, no real impact. But with the storyline they're telling, it does feel like that was an insult match aimed at what they were doing. You're not ready for Cody, you don't just get to come in. Him walking in and chinning the staff is actually from in his NJPW time, which obviously only ended recently. He was in a heel stable called Suzuki Goon. And what they do is, at the start, during, after matches, they just deck staff. Because all the staff are the young trainees, and they'll batter them, throw them into things. And it was really nice to see a little bit of character continuity in a way. Just chinning randoms. That's what I want from a mega heel. I had a really good time. I thought it was either going to be a shit squash or just add nothing to Archer. But Marco didn't really get any offense, and he did do that backflip out of the chokeslam, which was cool as fuck. But, he got a little bit of a runabout, kicked him a couple of times, but didn't really do anything. But Lance threw him so far. He threw him so far across the ring.
I think one of the things that using Marco helped with was it just made Lance looked like Godzilla.
Yeah, and the fact
he was towering.
The fact he didn't just stomp him and win, he did go for the pin, pull him up, laugh, do his finisher. For a squash match, it would be a B, but all squash matches go down a rank in my opinion, so I'm giving it a C, but a strong C. It's a squash match I actually really enjoyed. Also, I want to shout out to Archer's theme tune. It is so 90s SmackDown video game, and I loved it. I had a great time. I was like, this man, I am in. I'm 100% in now. One of my comments is just, Jesus, that spinning throw. And then 4 or 5 times he threw him so far. Then he launched him into the crowd. I believe Marco, if he aimed him upwards, Marco would still be travelling today. Ready to impact the earth like a fucking K2 meteor event. Yeah, I had a good time. I'm excited for Lance, if you hadn't picked up on that.
Yes. Then we had the Dark Order video promo. More Vince pops, but also getting Brody Lee over as an asshole. I thought this one was slightly better in that respect, as he just came across more like a dictative arsehole.
Yeah, no, it was definitely better in that respect. One of my notes is from John Silver's perspective, which is, I'm really regretting joining this cult. So for this one, because I obviously don't understand as many of the Vince pops, like the yawning apparently or something else, so I went to Reddit to see their opinions. And there was a few angry WWE fans going, why are there all these Vince pops? And then there was another comment, which is, they're only Vince pops if you're looking for them. If you're average wrestling person who doesn't know about the behind the scenes of the WWE, they're not Vince pops. They're just a crazy man. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start watching it like that. The only reason I know there's these Vince pops is because it's come out through looking up additional things. And from that perspective, it's fine. It made it more sense than last week's. When he was just sort of eating a steak. It's growing on me. I quite like Evil Cult Brody. Now he's getting more ludicrous, and there's shades of various actual cult leaders in there. There's some references apparently to it might be, the cult where they drank the Flavor Aid.
Reverend Jimmy Jones?
Yeah, I think there's some references to there in there. So it looks like they're tying in a bunch of other things. So hopefully it'll go less away from references to Vince people get and more into just maniacal cult owner. I had a good time. I gave it a C. Didn't blow my mind, but it was enjoyable. I got more of the character, and I like Brody.
Then we had a match, Dark Order 8 and 9 versus the Natural Nightmares. The Natural Nightmares win with the flapjack combination. What did you think of the match, and what score did you give it?
I gave it a C. I'm going to begin with my first comment, which is, why does Dustin / the Nightmare family's intro begin with a very dramatic version of the Postman Pat theme tune? Have you noticed that?
I hadn't.
It goes dun 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 dun, and I was like,
It's the Postman
no.
Pat theme.
I was just because it used to just be the tune. It just used to be Brain Stew by Green Day, and I used to sing that at Nick, and he'd get really angry. And then he changed it, and I was like, and Nick's like, "Aha! No, you can't sing that at me." And I was like, "It's the Postman Pat theme tune. It's ruined." Yeah, it was all right. Go local indie talent in masks, I believe.
Yes,
I
more
couldn't
than likely.
tell. I didn't think it was John Silver and Alex Reynolds. It could have been, but the difference in their size and shape didn't seem so huge. With John Silver's dwarven warrior build, arms and shoulders. Yeah, it was all right. Just didn't really blow my mind that much. Arguably, it built more up into the. It was more to show Brody coming down and stomping who was left at the end. I gave it a C. I was neither particularly driven or unexcited. I don't know if Brody afterwards only powerbombing the guy who ate the pin was like intentional, and if so, that's pretty good. We can see where that flows. But otherwise,
I think it was because I thought that was nice. But the guy who took the pin, and the other guy just gets to sort of cower and look terrified.
Yeah. But arguably the least interesting part of the show for me, this match. It was all right. Passes by.
Yep. So then we move on to the Matt Hardy and Jericho video promo, though not actually the Matt Hardy. It was the Vanguard 1.2 versus Jericho. Jericho again starts the whole trying to get Vanguard 1 to join the inner circle.
He gave him a little shirt.
Gives him a little T-shirt. Tries to say sorry, but can't, which was hilarious for me as an old Red Dwarf fan. Vanguard 1 flies off with the shirt, so Jericho shouts, "Release the hounds!"
Release the hounds! Oh,
and then
my
the
sides.
bunch of cutest, fluffiest dogs come charging out. This was, I thought, brilliant. Jericho playing in the broken universe.
The man is wonderful. I honestly think he might be like the most influential, workable, just wrestler, the GOAT, as they put it, of essentially people who weren't born young enough to see to see WrestleMania 3. You know what I mean? I was dubious at first. I saw Vanguard 1, and I wasn't quite on board with the sentient drone story. I wasn't quite sold on it. And then Jericho powers up. And he calls Cody exotic, referencing the neck tattoo and Tiger King, obviously. That got me. He did the Matt Hardy, I knew you'd come. He got him a tiny shirt. It was fucking beautiful. I gave it an S rank. I was playing that clip all night at Ruth and just rolling about on the sofa laughing to myself. It was perfect. I'm laughing now.
I thought it was just absolutely just phenomenal. I completely agree. An S rank, definitely.
Yeah.
This is just heading in. Maybe just as a side note, while I'm thinking about this, maybe me and you need to go back and watch a lot of the Broken Universe stuff together from TNA, and maybe even possibly do a cast about that. Just a thought for the future.
Yeah, we should. I need to do a proper watch of the Final Deletion match as well. That's been recommended by people who enjoyed the Undertaker match last night, as Matt Hardy having a match in his compound with all of the Matt Hardy bullshit. So, yeah, we could do a Broken Universe catch-up. That seems like a laugh.
That might be a good idea. Then we went on to a Young Bucks video promo, just nice and positive video promo. Raptor pointed out could be an interesting story with Nick, with him suffering from anxiety about getting back in the ring, which could be a very nice story if done well.
Well, things obviously have to improvise, because I assume the original story was Nick be smashed by barrier, Nick out for blood and guts. Unfortunately, then the coronavirus hits and we've had to put blood and guts back. So technically Nick doesn't need to be replaced anymore. He can be in the match. So playing with some anxiety off that can help. It might run into a little thing versus him with Matt Hardy, as Matt Hardy is obviously not there to join the Elite. He's there to do Matt Hardy things. Yeah, it was fine. I think I was so overwhelmed by the previous promo and the fact it rolled into another one, I sort of overlooked it a bit, just because I was still laughing and shouting, "Release the hounds." They arguably should have spaced that a bit better, just because going from that art into a Nick's back, I don't know, it cooled it down a bit too quick, or just, was so overshadowed by Jericho being Jericho.
I think
Either way,
it was a classic cool down. It was a cool down promo instead of a cool down match to get you ready for the main event, which we then had the main event, which was Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears versus Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin. Spears wins with a roll up, and then after that, Darby hits Cody in frustration.
The drama.
Yeah. So on the whole, what did you think of the match? What was your score?
I gave it a solid high B. Wasn't quite an A for me, but yeah, I gave it. It was good. I had a good time. Once again, my love of Shawn Spears. Matt Strange loves Shawn Spears and Chucky T. Yeah, they work really well. Shawn Spears eats shit like a hero. Yeah, you can smack him about and you can tell he's having a great time. I am getting a bit bored of stalling suplexes now. But then they played it into the comedy arc with the betting and it going wrong. I had a good time. I'm wondering where it's going to lead with Darby. Like, the match was good, wasn't perfect, few issues, but where it could lead in the future, especially with tie-ins to the TNT television belt, I think we've got a strong story lead with that, hopefully, because everybody who's in that is going to be in the tournament, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm assuming that this week's Dynamite, we will have the opposite side. So we'll have Colt and Dustin versus Lance and Kip. And then probably Lance will destroy Kip. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I'm guessing Lance is going into that with no friends. He might even lose the tag match, but it won't matter because he's all about this coming tournament, obviously.
So yeah, that was our review of Dynamite. Overall, what was the overall rank for you then, Mr. Strange?
I think we can say successfully give that episode an A. That was enjoyable. There was only one moment really where I went meh. The rest of it, I was solidly entertained. After last week's somewhat quiet and disappointing one, this one was a lot better. It was uplifting, funny, and had some great matches in it. It opened strong, it closed strong. Yeah, solid A. Good. That's what we need in such troubling times. And it's amazing how much of a difference just having a 10-man crowd is. Yeah,
I think bringing back the crowd was an exceptionally good idea.
Yeah, definitely. I had a great time. Wrestling's been good this week. Oh, so what are we on to next?
So normally this would be our rant of the week, but we've decided something different, and I believe this one's over to you, Mr. Strange.
So, as a incredibly angry, ranty person, we paused this week in our discussion for the episode, and we were like, not really that angry about anything. Things seem quite good. I've not seen a tag team pile driver this week, so we thought we'd do some positivity, bring a bit of love back to the world as you're all listening to us in these troubling times. So we're going to give some love to the actual respect and care AEW treats its old-time wrestlers with. We've got, and these are more your knowledge of people. This is, you are much more the old-time, classic wrestling fan than me. But I've learnt about these people now. Like, I couldn't have told you who Arn Anderson and Tully were 3 years ago. I'd never have known. I'd have known DDP and Jake, obviously. But the way they're respectfully treated, like, we don't expect to see them in the ring taking massive bumps or expect to watch them pull off massive moves and, destroy young kids. They're not destroying the new generation, and they're not being destroyed because a crazy man who runs a company tells them they have to. They're in teacher roles, in coach roles. Arn Anderson with his Waffle House menu. Obviously, DDP, God of Healing, has had a match. But he wasn't particularly dominant in that, was he? He's just, but then again, he is the man who fixes every other older wrestler's body, so presumably his is made of like diamond-laced gold from the Buddhism healing powers he has. Jake was a mess for years, and he's been DDP'd, healed up, and given a new chance to be Jake, and they haven't compromised him. He's still this weird, southern, sinister, evil dude who now has a giant Texan to destroy people with him. I'm doing hand gestures in my house to myself. Maybe I should get a camera. Respect to AEW for treating the old generation well. Arguably, you can say they slipped a bit when they let the Rock and Roll Express deliver the tag team belts. And, they knocked out a Canadian Destroyer and took some bumps and stuff. But seeing as those guys are actually still wrestling in NWA Power, it's not as bad to me. These guys are still wrestlers. Most of the old dudes the other ones have relaxed and are trying not to destroy their conflict-riddled and often drug-recovering bodies.
I was actually going to give a shout out to the Rock and Roll Express for the way they were used, and I thought that they were used really well, even though they took some bumps to put over the young guys, did some bits and pieces, but it was still fun.
Yeah, it's the correct way to use them. They are still wrestling, whereas the other guys aren't really. Sure, we got to see Arn do his spine buster in one of the earlier things that was on Spears, wasn't it? But Spears will eat shit for anyone. He's really enjoying being smashed about, and they've not really used him since, have they? Well, in a bumpy way.
You've got this mine of this wealth of knowledge with these guys. I mean, those names alone, Tully, Arn, Jake, the wrestling knowledge that those guys have got for how to work a match, etc. And they don't seem to be. The guys from AEW are still doing the flips and everything, so they're not being.
They're not Jim Cornetting the situation and complaining and going against everything.
They're just teaching about storytelling. So you're getting the flips and stuff, but you're also getting some incredible matches with storytelling. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and I'm really happy to see it because I've been forced to learn about. Like as I said, I didn't really know who Tully and Arn were. I'm not a Four Horsemen, Ric Flair era of wrestling person. Jake the Snake was my favorite wrestler as a kid, solely on the principle that he owned a snake. I didn't actually know anything about it, but now I'm going back, I'm doing some research. I learned about DDP taking up wrestling when he was 35, and that's kind of what gave me that extra bit of confidence to do it at 36 now. So they're respectfully treated, and I am actually intrigued enough to look them up and learn more about them, and that's really cool. And it doesn't compromise the new product, as is often the way.
So there you go. That's our positive of the week as opposed to our usual rant of the week. Don't worry, normal service, I'm sure, will be resumed next week when something
I'm sure it will. It will happen inevitably. And then we've also got what we think of the TNT Championship, where this is going.
Yeah, before that, just very quick shout out. If you want to send us questions, ideas for rants, things you'd like to hear us discuss, Twitter, WrestleOP1. Email is wrestleopinionated@gmail.com, and you can also find us on Facebook at WrestleOP. So yeah, we decided we'd have a discussion piece this week, and we would discuss the TNT Championship, what we thought about that, our thoughts on the brackets, and we're going to do our first bit of predictions as to where we think this is going to go. Right, so
I have like a 90% prediction success rating when I do this with the weekly shows. I generally only get one match prediction wrong every week, so I'm ready. I'm armed.
So I am the reigning, defending WrestleMania predictions champion in our circle of friends who watch WrestleMania every year. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I was only down one last night.
I didn't do it last night because I just don't know enough.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So what are your thoughts first on actually them doing a mid-card championship? Do you think they've got enough people to do in the mid-card to have a mid-card championship?
I think they've given into public pressure because the first thing they always said was they're not going to have a mid-card belt. They had no interest in pushing one, and that, you know, wrestling is more than, you know, just putting titles on people. So I'm a little bit disappointed in it, if I'm honest. I don't think to be a wrestler you care about, you have to have a belt. Like, if you look at the golden age of wrestling for me, my one mate was obsessed with Too Cool, the rise of Edge and Christian, then Edge, you know, when they were younger. That they didn't always, until he became the big superstar, obviously, they didn't always need the belt. Before Jericho became the dual joining Intercontinental Champion man, I forget the full title, he was just dude in the mid card who was awesome to watch. So I can be won over. I don't know if it feels a little bit like an excuse just to give Cody a title. I'm going to have to see how this plays out, basically.
I, as we said, we would quite like to see a trios and possibly the bringing in of more teams for a trios championship for the mid card, because they are tag team focused. One of Jericho's things is the fact that he is currently holds more Intercontinental Championship wins than has held the Intercontinental, WWE's mid-card belt. As long as they don't flood it and throw another mid-card belt in like WWE did, I'm not too worried.
What I'm worried about.
I also think that you should be going for a belt, but you should be going for the World Championship. That's the belt that everyone should want.
Yeah. Maybe they've just brought it in to give us a bit of hype and appreciation in this, you know, time of very difficult to get all your wrestlers together. As I'm guessing, most of them seem to be quite local and friendly. Obviously, we know that Lance did his video package at Darby's house. Spears lives locally. These are all people who showed up on the show this time, so it must be people they've got about and easy access to. We'll see. Like,
I'm guessing
it's a weird name for a title.
They were also doing the pre-tapes. I think we're going to see those same names about.
Yeah, that would make sense, actually. Yeah, you've got a very good point. Whilst they're in, get them done, and you can just knock out a good show. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I don't like the name Television Championship. I'm sorry, it doesn't sound badass.
I think that's why they've changed it to the TNT Championship, which you can think the show is called Dynamite TNT. It's a bit of pandering for the network that they're on as well.
Yeah, well, you know, explosive references and TNT wrestling is a common mix. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I'd have preferred a trios match. If you open up the world to bigger. If you make stables a more common thing, like it is in Mexican wrestling, it doesn't feel so much like things are being dominated. Like, you know, a team who is a trios, a tag, and a single isn't as bad if there's 5 members in there because you're not so worried. But we'll see. Like, people like belts, and they like seeing people carry big shiny belts. And as long as this belt doesn't look as terrible as the AEW women's belt, I suppose I will accept it.
I'm sure Nyla Rose just wears it as a bracelet.
I've photoshopped so many pictures of that being like a wristband and like smaller than an atom. It looks nice. It's just so small. So yeah, hopefully we get a good belt, and I'm hoping Lance wins it. Overall, I've got my predictions. I've got my where I think things are going.
So
but I think this.
Let's discuss the brackets. So
yeah, let's go.
Cody versus Sean. Personal
Cody's
opinion,
winning.
I think Cody's going to win. I think that was partially. I think that's going to lead into who's winning next. I think that's partially set up, but that should be a good match. We know they've got good chemistry. They work well together. They've got a bit of storied history.
Yeah, it'll work really well. And Sean doesn't mind losing to anyone. Like, you can tell I said this earlier, he loves wrestling. If you watch any of the interviews with him or him fucking about in his gym with his missus and his students, he just loves to wrestle. And yeah, it should be a great match. I don't know if Cody will be able to bleed in that one, but I'm sure he will in the one afterwards.
So then we have Darby versus Sammy. Again,
Darby is winning.
I think you're right. I think Darby wins. I think this is the payoff for what happened at the end of this weekend.
Yeah, and it'll end the
end of this episode.
It'll end the Sammy Darby rivalry, and it builds us to the Cody Darby rivalry. Should be perfect. And we know they can have a good match.
Yeah, they had a great match previously. They should be able to have a good match. Then we move
Is that their third match?
I think it's their second, which is the interesting thing, because if you go by the rule of 3, Sammy could win this. And that gives them then the rubber match later on down the line. But I think you sowed the seeds with Darby and Cody this week.
Yeah, definitely.
Darby.
And they fought twice as well, Darby and Cody, or is that?
Darby and Cody have fought twice, and it's a draw and a win for Cody.
Oh, I think Cody's got to go through though for the final battle. We need to pay off this Caesar reference, so I think Cody is beating Darby.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page as you there. Again, I think Cody steps through. I think that there's lots of storylines running through here. Then we've got the one that doesn't have a storyline behind it at the minute, which is Kip versus Dustin. Yep.
I think this could go either way. I'd like it to be Kip who goes through. For a rise for the younger talent. If Dustin does go through, it means Dustin can lose to Lance, and then Cody's got the "you beat up my brother" story. Arguably, you can do more with the story if Dustin wins, but I think Kip should win because he's been getting a bit of a push recently.
I agree. I think Kip should win. You do have the option of having sort of like some second place playoffs here. I think Dustin will win because I think Dustin's going to win because you're going to go face and heel with Lance, and I don't think heel and heel will work with Kip. And Kip is such a heel. So as much as I'd like to see the young guy go over, and Kip is someone I really like.
No, you've convinced me. I reckon it'll be Dustin, and I reckon Beautiful Lips Lance Archer will destroy Dustin. I'm sorry, Colt. Lance is just going through.
This is where we move over to, unless Archer gets disqualified in the last match, which is Archer versus Colt. I mean, Archer could go 2 over the top, get disqualified. They could play with all of our expectations.
They have done this a few times, and I've had my mind blown because I don't expect my expectations to be blown in wrestling. Let's be honest. I view this very much as a TV show, and I try to work out what I think the best story would be. And if anybody's ever read any of my reviews on films and television, I can be quite critical. No, I think if we're going for Dustin, Archer is going to go through, and he is going to destroy Dustin. He is going to wreck his shit, which will obviously give Cody the anger rise up, because from what I can tell from the story, Jake and Archer are trying to provoke him, and these Caesar references must mean something, so there must be a betrayal coming somewhere. There's going to be a stabbing in the Senate. There's got to be, or you wouldn't use Caesar references, and you wouldn't have referenced the Ides of March.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, and I think they're hinting towards Arn.
Yeah, no, that would make sense. There's been quite a lot of references to the other ones, and what the Horsemen specialize in is betraying Rhodeses. So I reckon that's going to happen.
So that will give us, and as we've both agreed, this is going to be a bit of an easier discussion rather than having to. So Cody versus Darby, I think you've got another good match there. We know they can have a good match.
Yeah, that would be wicked.
I would go long again and nearly have another draw.
Yeah, they've got to push it to the limits. And honestly, with how we've had Darby losing his shit over essentially losing that last one because of Cody, I'm wondering if we're going to get heel, angry, stompy Darby for a bit.
I think because, maybe for that match.
He's been cut off from a lot of victories due to things outside of his control or just bad luck and such. Everybody's seen his skill and everybody loves him, but he's just not quite making it to the top a bunch of times, and that could snap him. I know he's been baby facing away, but we've been watching for 9 months now?
Yeah. Whether a Darby heel turn is the right thing, with him being so over with the crowd. And the things I said last week, he's got that Jeff Hardy thing, that physical charisma. But he could be a really good heel. because
AEW isn't afraid to let people cheer their heels. People sing Jericho's intro all the time. People love like Sammy. There's none of that WWE shame that people are cheering your heels in AEWs. And I reckon that could work well for him. And especially after I said Darby might not have the future possibility of changing characters and versatility last week. If they can pull it off here, I could be proved wrong in a second.
That's fair. And then that would lead us into Dustin versus Lance Archer. Again, I think you've got the possibilities for a great match. Maybe less squashy than other Lance Archer matches because you've got someone who's as tall, if not slightly shorter or slightly taller than Lance. So
yeah, it'll be a big dude on big dude rumble.
Yeah, but you've got two guys who can go.
Yeah, no, it should be really good. I think that'll be our first proper showcase of Lance, if I'm honest.
You don't think that'll happen with Colt?
No, I think he'll eat through Colt, because as much as I love Colt, his character is very much, you can see the heelish arrogance in his babyface comedy eyes when he's doing like shitty things like spinning people around and going between their legs and taking the piss. And I reckon he'll get a strong start and then something terrible will happen. It's when he was doing comedy matches with Toru Yano in NJPW, which is, if you want to watch any Toru Yano match, just going to put this out here now, watch Toru Yano versus John Moxley in the G1 last year. It was fucking hilarious. When they lost, because they were in a comedy tag team together, it was always just because they'd taken that one step too far or done something too bad, and then they'd just get annihilated. And I reckon that's what we're going to get. Strong start from Colt. He'll take the piss too much, and then we're going to get fucking Lance Archer rising up behind him like a fucking titan, and then, throws him into space, and he hits the sun and bursts into flames. That's my prediction. But Dustin versus Lance, there's going to be, it's going to be a bit more of a challenge, and he's going to make Dustin suffer.
Yeah, we know Dustin can play that very well. So then, Cody versus Lance. Who wins?
Right, okay.
So who is your first TNT champion?
I think it's Lance. Because every other big guy we've had enter the series has lost. Like, where they brought in the Butcher and the Blade as this terrifying fucking, massive evil walrus man and evil Jason Statham, and they've just eaten shit. Then we had, who was the other big guy who just wandered in a lot? Wardlow looks badass, huge and massive. Lost his first match with Cody. Did look great, but lost. We've not had a big heel just stomp in and win. And as much as I think Cody is vying for a title, and he's probably owed one, he's a fabulous babyface, the 3-star ring general. But I think, slowly, if you've watched, Cody has been betrayed by every single person. And he's been knocked down and beaten. And I reckon if we don't get a Darby heel turn, this could be the spin of either Cody going full fucking crazy solo heel, or Arn and Jake taking Caesar into their heel stable because he's lost, because he's not ready. Because as Jake said in that first promo, all he does is bitch and whine and doesn't achieve anything. So if Cody won, I'd get it, but I think we need that monster to actually look monstrous. All the other monsters have kind of failed, and
I think it'll add some legitimacy to the belt.
Yeah,
and either one of those guys puts legitimacy on the belt. Archer because he's going to be such a monster. Cody because he's Cody.
Yeah, and in all honesty, a babyface taking a belt off a mega heel is always better than a babyface just winning the belt. You want them to be battered down and come back and bleeding and Hogan out and stomp their foot in a circle and take down the big guy and fall to their knees holding that belt in the ring. That's why we watch this. That's why we watch fucking Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and shit. We want the battered hero to be able to triumph over the named mega bad. And for that, you've got to give them the belt to the mega bad.
Yeah, I think putting a belt on a heel is always a good start off. Legitimacy for a belt is important. Obviously, They gave legitimacy to their world championship by putting it on Jericho.
And Lance is a very different heel to Jericho.
Yes.
He's not shitty, petty move, old rock star clinging to legend. And I say that completely with respect, because that's how Jericho has sold this, and I love him. Lance is the juggernaut who has this terrifying, sinister old man with 50 years of reputation of being a sinister, manipulator. They're a brilliant pair. So I think it should go to Lance. It wouldn't surprise me if it went on Cody, but I think Lance and maybe leading Cody into something with these old guys away from the elite, because he's just been betrayed and betrayed and betrayed and betrayed. And that has to go somewhere. You need some Gado booking from NJP Dub.
Yeah, I also think you're looking at the collapse of the elite soon anyway, so that the elite can come back together next year. Yeah,
definitely. You've got the Act 3, end of Act 2, start of Act 3 fall apart, basically, as we tell stories.
Yeah.
So that is my prediction, and who knows where we can get things from there. I think we might get to see Kip and Sammy becoming better friends in story, just because they've been quite connected a bit, and if you watch Sammy's vlog and stuff, they're really close. They seem to really get on as two arrogant, shitty young heels. So I reckon there's a lot of potential for other other teams and stories to come out of this TNT Championship, and that's arguably what I'm most excited about over another belt that should have been the Trios title.
Yep, so there you have it. That's our prediction. We believe that Lance Archer will be the first TNT champion. A good week in AEW. So comes to the end of our show. Please follow, like, share, subscribe. We are on the Anchor.fm app. We are on Spotify. We are on YouTube. A reminder again, Twitter, WrestleOP1. Email wrestleopinionated@gmail.com and WrestleOP on Facebook. I'd like to thank Anchor FM for hosting the podcast. Over to you, Mr. Strange.
Yeah, so we very much really would like your feedback. I often actually work better ranting at something about something that somebody else has made me angry about. Give me some subjects, give me something to criticize. Morg will sit here and try to balance and rationalize me out as I lose my shit and babble in an incoherent method, because he's the only one who can think. Please do send through questions, send through pictures, send through whatever you want. We are here to make this better for our, hopefully, reaching a dozen listeners. We've got a Chinese wrestling promotion who followed us now, so this is the rise to the top, boys, girls, and rainbow in between. Hook us up, get involved, and we will make this grow to be the show you want it to be. That's WrestleOP1@twitter.com, emails to WrestleOpinionated@gmail.com, and WrestleOP on YouTube and Facebook. We'll take any feedback, we'll take pictures. Hell, if you're a famous musician who for some reason is listening to two random West Midlands dudes talk about wrestling, make us some custom intro music. We are here to make this show better for you. And because our missus make us actually have objectives in life. So thank you very much. Go on, man.
All that's left to be said is the usual end of our show. All I can say is goodbye and good night.